Hi, I'm Jamie. Today I'm going to talk about my favorite components in games that I own. That way I can actually show you all of the components, even though there are awesome components in games that I don't own. I'm going to focus on the ones that I do own today so I can show you them on camera. I'm talking about this today for a few reasons. Part of it will be from my perspective as a gamer, but also part of it will be from the perspective of myself as a publisher and designer and things that I really admire that people chose to put into their games. Um, I've talked about hooks before. I love games that have a thematic hook or a mechanical hook, or instead of and, thematic hook and a mechanical hook, and an artistic hook, and a component hook. I like when games have a nice table presence, not just the art, but when they have at least one component that makes you really want it, want that game, want that special thing that's in that one game. This isn't universal. There are plenty of card-only games that I do enjoy. But I like when games add something that's really cool in the game. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. As usual, this is somewhat of a top 10 list. It won't be in any particular order. But as usual, I'm not going to include my own games, the games that I publish on this list. But I do want to mention them real quick because I'm pretty proud of the component hooks that we put in our games. And so I just want to mention them real quick. I'll go through them in chronological order. So in Viticulture, we have these little glass tokens, and they have the nice effect of, I think the word is refracting the color beneath them. So you put these over icons that represent wine and grapes on your player mats, and they become the color that's below them on the player mat. So I think they work really well. And because this is a game about wine usually comes in glass bottles. So I thought that worked well. Also, Viticulture has a ton of building tokens. We could have used like cubes or punchboard to show players that I've built this building, but instead we have unique wooden tokens for every single building in the Viticulture base game. So I thought that was a cool addition. The next game we had was Euphoria. Euphoria has lots of nice wooden resources that I'm happy with, custom wooden resources. But I like the dice a lot in Euphoria. They are normal D6 dice, but we customize them. So basically, if you're publishing a game, there is a molding cost to creating a custom die like this. But I think it's a really nice touch to have a die that is unique to your game, even if it's just a standard D6, where you do have to pay for a mold, but that's a relatively low cost over time compared to the cost of making the dice. What's next? Between Two Cities, I think was the next one. Yeah, Between Two Cities has these wooden city tokens. We silkscreen printed many of these tokens on both sides, which I think adds a nice touch to tokens. It does make it considerably more expensive to silkscreen print tokens, but it's a nice touch sometimes when you're trying to accent a certain detail on those tokens. That's Between Two Cities. Next we had, hope I don't forget one here. I think Scythe is next. Yeah, I think Scythe is the next game. In Scythe, one of my favorite components are the dual layered mats. So you can kind of see that in the light there. These are dual layered, which guides players to where they need to set up tokens based on the size and fit of these tokens. And if you bump the table and bump this thing, all the tokens don't go anywhere, which is pretty crucially important in Scythe. You might be able to remember where the tokens go, but it's super helpful to have these guides to show you where tokens go and where tokens can't go. Charterstone. Charterstone was next. In Charterstone, there are a few components that I really love. One are the metal tokens, the metal coins that are included in every copy of the game. These are I wanted something special that you could walk away with the game. Even if you don't play Charterstone after the campaign, you can, but even if you don't, you can walk away with this nice artifact from the game to use in other games. Also, I really love, this is the index. This is the box that you open when you unlock stuff in Charterstone. I don't think I have any spoilers in mine visible right now, but I'll check. But it's a nice sturdy tuck box, really thick, and it has a magnetic clasp, which isn't unique to Charterstone at all, but it's just super satisfying to open something with a magnetic clasp and to close it. So given that the index is where you unlock new stuff, I wanted it to feel special when you opened it, and that magnet really adds that. Okay, those are my public. Oh no, I'm too short. My little scythe. I really like the game trays that we included in the game because it sorts out everything really nice and well, and it has this nice display element when you open the box. Also, this is our first attempt at kind of chibi-style miniatures, which are really nice and chunky and detailed. I really, really like how the miniatures turned out in my little scythe. And then in Castles of Mad King Ludwig, or Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig, are the newest game on our list that we just announced. There are two components that I really, really love. It does have wooden tokens, like Between Two Cities, but the two components are, one, the score pad. Many games have score pad. Matthew and Ben suggested that we add a touch of color to it, since there are certain places that you just never fill in on the score pad. So I like that we added a touch of color. And it's a 100-page score pad, and all the sheets are double-sided. This costs only a little bit more, but it doubles the amount of replayability that you get out of these sheets. So I didn't think about that for a long time. Even our pre-production copy isn't double-sided, but then we were like, why not double-sided? It's only a few cents more. So I like that we did that. The other part is the tray. There are two trays. This is one of them the game comes in. And I don't know if you can see it on camera, but these say ×9. And what that means is they can fit exactly 9 tiles, which at the end of the game, when you have all these tiles spread out on the board, that's the time when it's easiest to shuffle the tiles. So you shuffle all those tiles up at the end of a game and then put them back in the insert. Each slot fits exactly 9, so you don't even have to count the tiles. You just put them in there, they fit 9. And then at the beginning of your next game, all you have to do is take out 9 tiles and start playing. You don't have to shuffle the tiles or anything like that. So I really like that the insert itself makes organizing the game really easy, and it turns setup into a really, really fast process. Okay, now for real, that's all of our games. I could go into our expansions too, but I won't do that because I want to talk about the top 10 games that I own, or top 10 components in games that I own. Again, in no particular order. First, let's talk about the first one that came to mind for me. These are actually components from 2 different games, and they are masks. So in Scotland Yard, I don't even know if this is in the current version of Scotland Yard, but if you are Mr. X in Scotland Yard, you wear this eye shield so other players can't see what you're looking at on the board. And if you wear this, it makes you feel really mischievous because you're hiding your intentions in the game. And When I Dream, the mask serves a different purpose. When I Dream is a game about dreams, essentially, and guessing something while your eyes are covered. So instead of just having the player cover their eyes, they actually give you a sleep mask that one of the players wears while they're asleep in the game. And this covers up their eyes, but also it's a sleep mask in a game about going to bed and falling asleep. So I love that they included this. So in general, I think it's really cool when games include these wearable components that also serve a key function in the game. That is really, really cool. So that is for Scotland Yard and for When I Dream. And as I've been doing recently, if you forget any of these names, just look in the description of this video, and you can see a list of all the names from all the games that I talk about here. The next one that came to mind when I was brainstorming this list were the gears in Tzolk'in. So in Tzolk'in, time is a key mechanism. You are placing workers on these gears, and then every round you are turning the center gear one space and advancing, am I turning this right? Yeah, and advancing the other gears and advancing the workers on those gears, making the benefits that you get from pulling the workers off the board better. I love this game, and I love that time is used in this way, in a way that, like, you don't have to, all you have to do is turn one dial, even though there might be dozens of workers on the board. All you have to do is turn one dial, and time is adjusted for all of the workers. So I really like how the gears represent the passage of time in Tzolk'in. That is really, really cool. The next one I have is Princess Jing. Princess Jing uses a component that's very, very rarely seen in games. It uses mirrors. So this is a game where you have hidden information, and you can position your mirrors to learn information held by the other players. This is so cool. I would love to see this in other hidden movement games. This is kind of a hidden movement game. It's 2 players, so it doesn't feel as hidden movement as, say, Scotland Yard. But I would love to see this in other hidden movement games where you're positioning mirrors to learn a little bit of information, and the other players kind of dancing around those mirrors so you don't get that information. Princess Jing, mirrors. That is really, really cool. And actually, make sure, if you get Princess Jing, these come with a protective piece of plastic over them, and it may not be evident that you need to remove that piece of plastic, but you definitely do, so you can have a very clear mirror. Just a little pro tip for Princess Jing. The next component on the list, oh yeah, this is a new one. I raved about the rise of Queensdale on a video recently, and I can't wait to get back to the table tomorrow for games 2 and 3, hopefully. It has a plunger in it. This is a plastic plunger with a rubber end, maybe silicone, maybe rubber, and it actually functions. Let me see if there's something I can pick up here. Yeah, here's another component. So it has picked up this token, and this is not just cool, but it serves a function in this game because it's a dual layered board with hex tiles preset into the board, and every once in a while you need to remove one of those tiles, whether it's a building or a piece of grass that you need to reveal something underneath, and it's not really easy to get your fingernails under the side, so the plunger serves that purpose really, really well, and it's just a cool component to have. It feels good to use this plunger in the game. So that is The Rise of Queensdale, the plunger. 2 games that I own. I don't own Splendor. As much as I love Splendor, I don't own it. Splendor has these chips. But there are 2 games I own that do have these high-quality poker chips. I don't know if you can hear that. These are very high quality. So these are the clays in Brass Birmingham, and these are the poker chips in Fog of Love. They're just very, very satisfying to stack and touch. It just feels good. It has that nice sound that you can hear right now. Let's see if the clays sound any different from brass. Yeah, pretty much the same. And yeah, it's a really nice way of organizing money, especially if you don't have to conceal the money in the game. It's just a nice way to keep the stack of money on the table. Just feels good. It's better. I think it's better than paper money in my opinion. What else do we have here next on the list? Okay, miniatures. Miniatures are a great component. I love miniatures. I wouldn't say I go gaga over them like some people I've seen on Kickstarter, but I do enjoy a good miniature. And one of my favorite things that some games do with miniatures is that they ink them. They give them a nice ink wash. One of my favorite components, really in any game, and one of my favorite miniatures in any game, are the miniatures in Kemet. And I think these might have changed over time, but I love the color they chose for these miniatures. They have kind of an old world feel, and I love that they inked them. I don't know if you can see that all that well, but they inked these miniatures to really bring out the details in them. It's a stunning presentation, and it just fits this old world fantasy feel of Kemet. And the other one that I wanted to mention is Mechs versus Minions. And Mechs versus Minions, they went all out and inked all of the miniatures, which is very, very expensive to do. You'd be surprised. It's not a cheap process to ink wash a ton of miniatures like this. Kemet, I think they get away with it because they only have around 10 of these special miniatures, maybe even fewer, 7, 8. But in Mechs versus Minions, they're maybe up to 100 miniatures. There's so many miniatures in this game, and they're all ink washed to really bring out the finer details in them. I think that's awesome. So yeah, those are ink washed miniatures in Kemet and Mechs vs. Minions. Then, okay, so on a completely different scale, Telestrations. I love the books in Telestrations. These are, what is the word? I'm blanking on it. I'm blanking on it. Sorry, guys. It's the type of whiteboard. It's like a whiteboard type of texture in the book, and I love that you have all these pages that you can write on and easily erase. But I like that this thing serves a specific function. This is a game that you could play on a piece of paper, but I think this book is so much better because in Telestrations you are drawing a picture. Like this is the sketch it page, so it's telling you to draw a picture, and then you pass it to the next player, and that player turns the page. Actually, you flip the page before you turn it to conceal it, which is another function of this spiral book. That's a nice key function to it. That player guesses it. They write the word. Again, the book tells you what to do here because it's printed on here. And then they flip it and pass it to the next player. And then at the end of the game, you have this nice temporary artifact where usually when we play, we don't even spoil it in advance. So when this book comes back to me, I say, okay, guys, this is the word that I wrote down. And the person drew this. And then this person said it was this. So it's kind of telling the story at the end of the game, which I really think is great. I love the many, many functions of this book. It works out really, really well for the purpose of Telestrations. And I think this whiteboard can work in other games too. One thing I should mention there is whiteboards versus score pads. I like the permanent artifact that score pads provide in a game. Like in all of our games of Between Two Castles so far, we've kept the score pad, so later on we can look back and see, oh, remember that time that this person did so well in this category, got these points. I like that artifact. But for Telestrations, even though the artifact would be pretty cool, I think the versatility of this book is a great match for it. Okay, this is a weird one. Can you guess where this token is from? This is from Gaia Project, and it's not a particularly amazing component. It's just a solid gem. I believe it's called the Mind Stone or the Brain Stone. I didn't look it up in the rulebook before the video. But the thing I want to focus on about this component is that it is an asymmetrical element of the game. Only one player has this component, and it looks really cool on the table because no one else has it, and it does something special. It serves a special function for that specific faction. I love in asymmetrical games when they not only give you special rules, but also a completely unique component. It just feels special to have something tangible, something physical that no other player has. And when you don't have it, there's this feeling of envy that it kind of feels special and good because you're looking over there at the table of this player who has this giant stone that they get to use. And you want it. You are excited about the time that you get to play with it and thinking about what you might do with it when you got to have that component. So I really like asymmetrically unique components in games. The last two things, I love custom Meeple. So I mentioned the buildings in Viticulture earlier. Meeple Circus is just chock full of special Meeples. And while I love special Meeples that look cool, I think that's great. Meeple Circus takes it to a new level because these are all carefully calibrated to create interesting balance scenarios. Because in Meeple Circus, you're often stacking Meeples together. You see these elephants? You're putting an elephant on top of a donkey, and you're putting Meeples on top of it and stacking those Meeples on top of one another. So I love how they chose different components with different types of balance, different thicknesses. See, this tiger is not as thick as the other components. These long bars, all these unique Meeples that you're trying to configure with each other and stack on top of one another. I think that makes Meeple Circus a lot of fun. Actually, Animal Upon Animal has that too, but I don't own that. I gave it to my niece and nephew. The last one, so recently we created a Scythe playmat. We worked with a company called Inked Gaming that makes a Scythe board, and we're mass producing it for the rest of the world. And one of the things I struggled with here for a little bit is people kept asking for this Scythe playmat, but the Scythe playmat really doesn't serve that much of a purpose. There are some reasons to have it, but it's really not a big deal. However, in games where you are frequently picking up or moving cards on the board, I think playmats work almost exponentially better than cardboard. I'm sure you've all had the instance where you've tried to get a card off the table, either off the table or off the board, and you just can't pick it up. You have to slide it over to you or something like that. But a playmat, like the one included in Legendary Encounters Aliens, because it has that flexibility, it's really easy to push down on an edge of the card or get your finger under any card that's laying on the playmat. So I love, and given inside the Legendary, you frequently have to pick up cards, you have to move them, you have to shift them around, and the playmat makes it so much easier to do that. Playmats also, like any game board, tell you where to put the cards, which I think is a big deal in many games. If you have any card game where you need to have a certain layout of cards on the tables, you need some sort of a mat to go along with it. Playmats are actually not cheap, but game boards aren't particularly cheap either. So if you have a game where you need to constantly pick up cards or shift them around, I think a neoprene style or rubber playmat can really do a great job with that and can really help players. I'm sure I've missed some amazing components in my games, and obviously this list is limited by the games that I own and that I looked at today and thought, hey, that's a cool component in them. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about these components and components that are in games that you own that you absolutely love, that make it a special experience for you, or they have a utility that makes the game easier to play or more special to play. I'd love to hear your thoughts about these in the comments. That's it, and I will see you... Oh, actually, I didn't mention this. You might be wondering why I'm standing today on today's Sunday sit-down video, and that is because Biddy, my cat, one of my cats, is very happily napping on my chair. So I thought I'd stand up today to give him the benefit of the doubt. All right, have a great Sunday. I'll see you next week.